What's up, GUFF gang? New year, new GUFF. Well, same GUFF, but new content. Joey Marino here from Grown Up Fantasy Football with James Reiner and Zach Maziarz. The boys are back.
Boys are back in town. Let's go.
I hope you didn't miss us too much. We haven't done a show together in a while. Actually, come to think of it,
yeah,
it's been quite some time since I think early December. But before we get into everything, to let you guys know, if you haven't read the title yet, we're breaking down some playoff matchups, real NFL physical playoff matchups. Not the fantasy stuff. This is the real stuff right here. But before we get into the brackets, to kind of let you guys know, we're going to be talking. We're kind of shifting some content around a little bit. We're going to do some long form discussion type stuff on the pod, like you're listening to right now, hopefully. And some of our quicker stuff, our shorter, quick-paced videos are going to be more based around YouTube. So just to let you guys know where we're putting our content, it may not be duplicated everywhere. So be sure to follow us on the podcast, to subscribe if you're listening. And hey, we heard those reviews are pretty good, so you may want to leave one. They're pretty cool to check out. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and hit the like button over here. But I think all that out of the way, let's get into some playoff matchups. All right, so first matchup we'll talk about. Let's go Colts at Bills, the 7th-seeded Indianapolis Colts at the 2nd-seeded Buffalo Bills. Zach, give me your cursory thoughts.
Oh, man. So to begin the season, I was actually pretty pumped about the Colts. And they really seem like they're starting to take their own. They're figuring out their game plan. They're really figuring out their groove. And one of the things that is helping them to do that is Jonathan Taylor. He is just going off as their bell cow running back now. If you had a Week 17 fantasy championship, like Week 16, Week 17, and you had Jonathan Taylor, congratulations, because that was just a monster performance by him. But unfortunately, with all that being said about the Colts, and as much as I like them and would love to see them progress, the Bills have just been on fire lately. The Colts, too, are a team where it seems like they are very run first, kind of keep you at bay with their defense and try and run the ball, use Phillip Rivers very minimally in the passing game. But we saw that with the Bills last week playing the Dolphins. The Dolphins kind of remind me of the same type of team. They're not like as much run heavy, but they are a game management type team, got a great defense, kind of keep you at bay, and the Bills smother them. The Bills kind of took away the elements of them being able to play their game plan and just kind of took it away by blowing them out to start the game. That's kind of what I see this game. I see the Colts wanting to kind of go the ground and pound, maintain things with their defense, and I see the Bills just running away with it. Colts having to play uncomfortably and try and catch up, and they just do not have the offensive weapons and the offensive capabilities to do that. So I'm going Bills in this game.
Yeah, I think Colts were one of the best defenses in the NFL this year, and the offense was solid. I think Phillip Rivers was playing at a good enough level to help them win games, help them get to this position. I think they're a very good 7th seed team. Much better than the Bears on the NFC side. And like you said, Jonathan Taylor has been playing great, lights out, but I don't think it matters. I think Josh Allen is just too damn good for the Bills. He'd be my second pick for MVP behind Aaron Rodgers. That's how good I think Josh Allen has been this year. I just can't see the Bills losing this game at home. I think Bills win this.
I think this will be kind of close. And I think the Colts are going to try to play ball control and keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. Now, I think, yes, you're right that, the Bills can explode and just score just like that. But can the Bills defense really keep Jonathan Taylor at bay? And I guess that's going to be the question. I don't think there's any question that the Bills are going to score on the Colts. It's more of, will the Bills be able to stop Jonathan Taylor? And if they do, can Phillip Rivers get the ball where it needs to go and not throw costly interceptions like he's known to do? But I think with that being said, I like the Bills too. They're playing like a real Super Bowl team, honestly. They could go pretty far in the playoffs. But that's it for that matchup. Let's talk Steelers and Browns, the 6-seeded Cleveland Browns at the 3rd-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers, a rematch of Week 17.
Literally just one game, like literally playing each other like 2 weeks back to back. That's crazy.
Yeah. James, what do you think of this matchup?
This is a tough game to pick. I'm leaning Steelers just because they have the experience. The Ben Roethlisberger, Mike Tomlin, they've been in playoffs before. They've been in this position before. They know how to handle themselves. This is the first time Baker Mayfield's been in playoffs. I don't know how he'll handle the pressure. I actually kind of think the Browns have been playing better football lately, even though they did just lose. But I have to lean Steelers just because of their experience, and I think they'll be able to handle the pressure better.
It is a tough one, kind of like you said. And the thing that worries me about the Browns is not so much the offense, it's more of the defense. Because outside of Myles Garrett, what do the Browns have to defend against, yes, a weaker Steelers offense? But I just don't see the Browns. I don't know if I see them really stopping the Steelers that much. And I think the experience is a good thing too. Mike Tomlin, Roethlisberger, he didn't even play last week. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one, but can the Steelers move the ball? Is that the question? I mean, yes, Cleveland stopping them is one question, but can the Steelers actually get the ball downfield is another question in itself. And, if the Steelers, I don't know, this is tough. I mean, if the Steelers don't play on defense up to their standard, then Cleveland could squeak out a win here. That's a dangerous offense with Stefanski. Zach, what do you think?
So first of all, the Browns won last week. I know they didn't have the Steelers didn't have Ben Roethlisberger, but the Browns did actually win,
How
getting
dare
them
you,
into
James?
playoff. Well, I don't want to take anything away from the Browns here. I think
Of course
they're
not. No,
actually
they've
a
earned it.
pretty formidable team. Defensively, yeah, Steelers definitely are stronger on defense than the Browns are, but offensively for the Steelers, I think after going 11-0, we were able to see that they had a lot of blaring holes on their offense. They have the talent, but the offensive scheme is just not there. It is literally 2 to 5 yard like in routes and out routes, and that's about it. It really just has not been a great offense. And I think being two teams from the same division, like this is going to be, I could actually see this being kind of like we saw the Ravens and the Browns a few weeks ago, just like a lights out awesome game. But I think just as a whole, the Browns are actually more unified and they are just better all around. I know their defense isn't as strong as the Steelers, but offensively they have a much better run game. They don't have OBJ anymore because he's been out for the season, but I think on offense too, with their passing attack, they're still able to open it up a lot more than I think the Steelers are. And the Steelers are beatable through the air. So you have a running back as good as Nick Chubb, probably still going to average like 5 yards a carry this game. And then on top of that, them saying, okay, let's commit to the run. And then bam, you're able to hit them with like a deep like a deep post or something like that. I think it's a good, favorable game for the Browns. And I think they proved a lot in getting to this point. I think they have a lot more to prove in beating them the first round. So I'm actually going Browns in this game.
So, Zach, you mentioned the Steelers' offense is not really shooting deep or anything. Do they need to really shoot deep? Because Roethlisberger's going to have Myles Garrett in his face, and you got to get the ball out quick. So those 2-yard ends, 5-yard ends, and slants, will that actually help the Steelers move the ball a little bit further downfield? I don't think the run game's going to be there like you mentioned, but I think it could help, honestly. This is a close one.
I think it works in terms of not getting sacked. I do not think it works in terms of winning a game, though.
I guess I'm the deciding
you give
vote
me
right
the
here.
Browns. You give me the Browns that played the Ravens a few weeks back, where first drive of the game they went down, marched down the field, scored, maybe a 2 drives later they score again. Steelers are no longer able to just say, okay, let's avoid getting sacked, throw slant routes, throw,
We
quick
gotta
little
score.
shallow stuff. We actually have to score. Otherwise, we're going to be out
Yeah.
of this game pretty quick. So I think in game situations like that, it really does not favor the Steelers offensively. But if the Steelers are able to come out, get ahead of the Browns, then yeah, I could see that being the case where they're not having to air it out as much.
Yeah, I mean, good points. I think my gut is telling me to go Browns here, and I don't like it that much because it's the Browns. But
That's
I'm
what
gonna
comes
go
out
with
of
the
your gut.
Browns. That's why probably I picked.
That's
them.
why.
Let's go to the
Yeah, I
next
just
matchup.
feel
in
like
the
Baker's game. Go ahead.
say that again.
No, go ahead. I was just
Oh.
gonna say, I feel like Baker's gonna come out nervous. The Browns are gonna come out nervous, and won't
You
be their
know
game.
what
I mean, he
helps?
could.
Well, you know what helps when a QB is nervous is using a phenomenal running back like Nick Chubb to run it down their throats to start the game off.
It's true.
Yeah, but they got. I mean, will the Steelers stop Nick Chubb? I don't know. Yet to be seen. Yet to be seen. Let's go to the next AFC matchup, the last actual game this round, because the Kansas City Chiefs locked up the first round bye, so they're not playing this weekend. We have the Baltimore Ravens, who are seeded 5th at the 4th seeded Tennessee Titans. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a really good one. Who wants to go first?
Let me at it. I think I agree with you, Joey. This is going to be a very good game. 2 solid teams.
Mhm.
2 pretty good defenses. I know the Titans struggle a little bit against the run, but overall their defense isn't the worst. I like it. I think this is a great game for Lamar Jackson. Bringing fantasy into this a little bit, over the last 5 weeks, we saw him kind of teeter-tottering back and forth over the season. Over the last 5 weeks, he scored over 20 fantasy points in fantasy leagues. So I think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense are starting to find a little bit of groove. Marquise Brown's actually scored in the last, I think, 3 games, which is tremendous compared to what he had been doing the rest of the season. So I think the Ravens have found their kind of late season groove that they were working off of last season. I think they're starting to get into a rhythm. On top of that, like I said, the Titans' run defense is not good. The Ravens, that's what they do. J.K. Dobbins has an insane yards per carry this season. Like, on the limited amount of carries he has gotten, he is like insane with his efficiency. So I think he will be hyper efficient this game. I think Lamar Jackson will be hyper efficient on the ground, specifically because the Titans are so bad run D. And then I think if the Ravens get out to an early lead, that kind of phases out. I mean, not early on, but later in the game, Derrick Henry could be phased out because of that. Which you would think, okay, the Titans have to utilize Derrick Henry in order to win this game, which is true. But we've seen several weeks this season where the Titans have gotten down. It's the fourth quarter; they're having to come from behind, and literally the entire fourth quarter, Derrick Henry's on the bench. You can't win a game with your amazing man of a god running back being on the bench. So, it could come down to a close game in the fourth quarter. And if the Ravens are ahead, we don't see Derrick Henry as much, which would heavily favor the Ravens. So I'm going Ravens in this game.
Yeah, this is a direct rematch of last year's playoff matchup between the 2 teams, and they also played earlier this season. Titans are 2-0 against them. They beat them in overtime this year. The Ravens have been playing better. The offense is looking a little better than it was. They kind of struggled this season. To me, the Tennessee Titans have just been a much more consistent team. They've looked better to me over the course of the season. And, I mean, Derrick Henry's obviously carrying the team, but they can also pass it very, very well. Ryan Tannehill's playing really good. A.J. Brown's playing really good. I think he's one of the best receivers in the league, actually. So I think they're just, from a consistency standpoint, the Titans have an edge here, and I would bet on them to win this game and pull it out. I still think it's going to be a really good game, really close. My money's on Tennessee, though.
Yeah, this is a game where I think every possession is going to matter in this game because both teams are phenomenal running teams. My biggest question is, yes, the Titans, They have literally no pass rush. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about Lamar Jackson getting sacked, especially being Lamar Jackson. But can Lamar get it done through the air against the Titans as well? Because if they're just going to run the ball, then we've seen teams line up, 9, 10 people in the box just to stop Derrick Henry, which the Ravens might do as well. But if the Titans do that, can Lamar get around that? Can they bust out of the run and open up the play? Can they open up the pass? I don't know. You point out, James, that the Titans are 2-0 versus the Ravens for the past couple of years with these cores of teams, of players on these teams. It's a tough one. And, I don't know if I see the Ravens getting out to an early lead and phasing Derrick Henry out. I mean, the Ravens have a fantastic defense, but Derrick Henry is on fire lately. I think I would slightly go Titans. I think it's going to be another crazy, crazy game between those two, but I'd go Titans as well.
Now, you said, does Lamar Jackson have the ability to beat them in the passing game? Does he have to beat them in the passing game, though? Like, I know you're saying they could stack the box, which would hinder the run, but just because it's a quote-unquote pass play does not mean they have to pass. Lamar Jackson could beat them on the ground still in dropping back and pretending to throw. Like you said, the pass rush is not great for the Titans. So yeah. I honestly would prefer saying, okay, yep, this is a passing down. Oh, drop back. Oh, nothing there. First look's not there. Let me go ahead and take off. Like, I could see Lamar Jackson beating them tremendously on the ground through not necessarily scripted run plays.
Just scrambles.
Yes.
out of the pocket. That could happen a ton. And if that does happen, then I think the Titans may be in trouble. But, the Titans can score just about on anybody, like through the air or on the ground. So it could go either way, but I'm going to still stick to the Titans on this one slightly. Well, that's the end of the AFC matchups. So let's do some NFC matchups. Let's start with the 7th-seeded Chicago Bears against the 2nd-seeded New Orleans Saints. Is this a mismatch, guys? What do we think about this game?
Yeah, I don't. Who's picking Chicago to win this game at New Orleans? I'm definitely not. New Orleans is a much better team all the way around. I think Chicago is going to struggle to score on them. I think Saints will control the game offensively. I imagine Kamara will be back.
He should be.
Yeah, any COVID-related players will be back. I don't think there's much analysis to do here. Mitch Trubisky, I can't see him winning a playoff game in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think what's funny is that the Packers secured the first-round bye, but technically so did the Saints. They both basically just have a first-round bye in this case. Mitch Trubisky, you're right, James. He's too much of a head case. It's kind of like what you were saying about Baker Mayfield. I don't see Mitch holding his own, especially against a stout Saints team. They just have depth all around the field. Every part of their team is very good and very well put together. Only concern I could see with this is if players like Alvin Kamara did not return for this game. If there was some sort of fluke where they did not make it back in time, I am pretty sure they will, and that they are doing everything they can to get them back.
He should be. It's a Sunday game, so I think he just meets the mark to play.
Right. Yeah, so I think he should be good there. But this reminds me of almost last week, Week 17, Packers versus Bears. The Saints are just such a dynamic offense to where the Bears team is one of those, again, where they try and kind of slow your game plan down. They try and stay in it and manage the game. Saints are a lot like the Packers, where they can get ahead very early and easily and throw you off that game script to where you are not comfortable the rest of the game. So, yeah, I see Saints winning this one fairly easily.
Yeah. My question is, what do we see with David Montgomery for the Bears? Obviously, in fantasy leagues, he could have been a league winner for you. Do we see him having success against a pretty stout Saints run defense?
I don't think so. In my opinion, this is a very good run defense. I think majority of the year, and I'm pretty sure even now, they're still the number 1 run defense on the season for fantasy purposes. But in my head, to beat the Bears would say let's force Mitch Trubisky to do something, in which case
Yeah.
means let's stop the run at all cost and make Mitch
Mhm.
Trubisky do something. So that would mean David Montgomery would have to have a pretty bad day.
I think David Montgomery has good fantasy game just from a opportunity he gets. If you watch that Packer game, he was involved on almost every play. I mean, Mitch, he doesn't throw the ball downfield like he should. He checks it down a lot, and David Montgomery got a ton of receptions against the Packers. So I think he'll help in the passing game.
So if any of you play week 18 or fantasy playoffs, I guess.
Start David Montgomery.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like he gets so many receptions. Like I could still see him having a, like on stat wise, not a good game, but like in terms of just involvement, like he's probably going to get a good bit of receptions. Unfortunately, they go for about 2 yards apiece, but he does get involved, especially if they're playing from behind.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of laid it out right there. The Saints have to be trying to shut down David Montgomery and make Mitch Trubisky beat you. And Trubisky had some success the later half of this year. He had a stretch of like 2 or 3 games where he was playing pretty well, but then finally ran into a playoff caliber team in the Packers, and they shut him down. And he showed his true colors once again. So yeah, I think we're all going Saints here. Not much else to talk about, but here's a good one to talk about. Maybe the best matchup right here in the NFC. We get the 6th seeded LA Rams at the 3rd seeded Seattle Seahawks. This is another really good matchup. What do we think is going to happen with these two teams?
I'm leaning heavily towards one team, but I could actually see the reverse of what I'm thinking happening. So from, just looking at this game, I say immediately in my head, Seahawks. Just because I think their defense is trash, but high-powered offense, Russell Wilson, it doesn't get much better than that, leading your team. You got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, a good running game too. And yet the Rams defense is very good. The last couple of weeks, the Seahawks haven't looked the same as we saw beginning of the season. So I don't know if necessarily the Seahawks are on a downtrend, or if maybe I don't know. I don't know what kind of Seahawks we're going to see this week is what I'm saying. And the Rams D is no pushover. It'd be different if this was a fairly just kind of middle of the road D, but this is a good Rams defense. You got Aaron Donald, you have Jalen Ramsey, and just a plethora of other defensive weapons to stop Russell Wilson. And if you stop Russell Wilson, you got nothing else going for you because your defense is trash and you can't do much else on the offense without Russell. So, Jared Goff, though, he scares me. At any point in time, Jared Goff scares me. But I don't think they would need to hyper-utilize him. I think Rams are always wanting to run first and foremost. But I just can't go away from my gut instinct. I have to go Russell Wilson. He's done great things. I can see him doing more great things in these playoffs. So I say Seahawks still.
Yeah, I agree. The Seahawks, I think, are trending down. They're not as explosive as when they first started the season. And Sean McVay does seem to kind of have the Seahawks number. He seems to have good game plans every time they play him. But I don't even know if Jared Goff is going to play this week. I'm looking at it right now, and McVay's saying not sure if he's going to be available for this game. If Jared Goff doesn't play, I don't think they have a chance. If he does, I'm still going Seahawks. I have too much faith in Russell Wilson and that team. I think they'll pull out a win.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think the biggest key to the game is Jared Goff if he plays. Because if he plays and we see good Goff versus bad Goff, then this is an easy Rams win, I think.
What about great Goff?
There's no great Goff. Come on. But it's strange, too, to see that, the Rams picked Jared Goff first overall in 2016. And have we seen the offensive tendencies we've seen from McVay with Goff is run first. That's your first overall pick. And it's kind of the same thing with Baker Mayfield. However, they have a game-changing running back in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But the Rams, they've played committee all year. They had Todd Gurley, but even this year, without Todd Gurley, who's been trending down too, they have Cam Akers, a second-round pick, Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown, who are committee. It's a committee back there.
But
You get your first overall pick.
the fact that their committee backfield and their committee running backs, this is a lot like the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of, on paper, no-name running backs, like in terms of draft capital, and yet they are phenomenal. This is very close to the same. And now in my head, I'm wondering, this is why it's so hard to decide this, because we see this in fantasy season. Like when you're playing fantasy football, say you have a running back on the other team. And the Rams, they receive the ball. They run the clock out the first quarter, like a good 10 minutes of that clock. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's 5 minutes left in the first quarter. And the team that I have a running back on hasn't even gotten the chance to step on the field yet. That's a concern with this game, is that the Rams are very good at running the ball, that they start off the game with the ball and they're able to chew up a lot of clock, just getting yards after yards, first down after first down, and running the ball, chewing the clock out. That keeps Russell Wilson off the field, to where he can't be the explosive Russell Wilson we're assuming he's going to be in this game. So that is a major, major concern.
That's kind of my thinking, because if the Rams play ball control over the Seattle offense and McVay and the Rams defense have Russ's number, I think it trends more in the Rams' direction than the Seahawks. Now, I still think the Seahawks are very talented, but Jalen Ramsey can and has shut down DK Metcalf before. It could happen again. I'm going to go Rams in this one. And I guess you guys are picking Seahawks then.
Yeah.
No change in opinion. Okay.
I got to go Seahawks.
All right, last matchup. The Packers secured the first round bye in the NFC, so they're not playing. We have the 5th seeded Tampa Bay Bucks at the, crazily enough, 4th seeded Washington football team. Yes. James is pumped. What do you think, James, is going to happen?
First off, let's talk about that game on Sunday night. What a disgusting way to get into playoffs. It was a gross game. We tried to lose. We gave them every opportunity. And then
Doug
they
wasn't
benched
having
Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts remains in that game, I'm 100% confident Washington loses. Peterson said it was a plan switched. I don't know. Whatever. We're in playoffs. Now we got to face Tom Brady and the Bucs. We were just playing Nate Sudfeld, and now we're going to play Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
I hope we pull it out. I hope we win, but I don't see how the hell we beat them. I think they beat the shit out of us. Wouldn't be surprised if it was like 30-0. We could barely.
James has so much, as James is repping his team's apparel.
He's so confident.
I hope we win, but I don't see a world where it happens.
The world that I can see it happening, I agree with you, James. I honestly, any NFC East team is lucky to get in the playoffs this year, and it's kind of inevitable that they just kind of get scratched off after the wild card round. But there is a situation where I can see the Washington football team winning, and that is getting pressure on Tom Brady. Yes. Having these amazing blitz packages, these surprise defensive plays, because we have seen this year, Tom Brady is the GOAT. He is amazing. But we have seen a lot in his career, even this year too, that if you get pressure on him, he looks like a little boy who lost his mom in a candy shop. He does not know what is happening. And so I think if the Washington football team can actually get a good bit of pressure on him, there is a chance for them to win this. I don't think they will win this, but I think that is the only chance we could see.
Yeah, it's all about getting pressure on Brady, and they can get pressure on Brady with that defensive line. I mean, Chase Young is probably going to be Defensive Rookie of the Year. Montez Sweat on the other side, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen. Those are 4 studs on that D-line. And if they can get into the backfield and force Tom Brady, into a mistake, those DBs can capitalize, I think. Yes, it's way, way better receivers than they just saw Sunday night against the Eagles. You got Antonio Brown, who could be a future Hall of Famer, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, who are all 3 fantastic wide receivers. But the real question is, what can Washington do on offense to get points? I mean, could we see a defensive score from Washington? It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. But I mean, outside of how do they? Jason Pierre-Paul is going to wreck the pocket. Alex Smith is going to have to move around, and in his past, before his injury, he was way more mobile. But I just don't see him getting the ball. I mean, yeah, you have Terry McLaurin, but somebody's got to throw the ball to him. And Antonio Gibson is up against a really stout run defense in Tampa.
Mm-hmm. I think Terry McLaurin is the key to being successful on the offense. The Buccaneers defense, we saw and we thought, oh my gosh, they're this amazing defense. And then towards the end of the season, we kind of saw, okay, maybe they're not all they're cracked up to be, especially secondary wise. They were actually very beatable against the wide receiver towards the end of the season. So I think Terry McLaurin is the keys to igniting this offense. Kind of got to go away from that really short routes or dump off plays and stuff that Alex Smith is known for, and actually try and get him the ball downfield. I do think a good game plan too for them would be, 1, to get pressure on Tom Brady, 2, maybe start some drama with Antonio Brown, maybe plant a bug in his ear, and then 3, tell Bruce Arians that Carson Palmer's at the game. And then he starts sweating. He's getting nervous, trying to impress Carson. And then, bam, you beat him. You have to infiltrate from the inside in a game like this.
I think we all think the Bucs are going to win. Yeah. Is that correct?
Probably, yeah.
So the only way I see Washington pulling this out is they have to win at the line of scrimmage, meaning defensive line has to dominate their O-line and our O-line has to dominate their D-line. So I think if we can do that, we can keep it close, and maybe we can etch out a win here. I think it would be close, even if Tom Brady has his worst game. I think it would be close still, and we'd have to pull it out with the run game in the last second. I think we just have to play physical football to beat them. Only way I can see it happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all agree there. We're all going with the Bucs on that one, but I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for sticking through, watching or listening until the end. Wherever you're listening, please hit that subscribe button. If you're on the podcast, then leave us a review if you enjoyed this episode and anything else we've put out there. And if you're on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button if you enjoy this kind of video. Leave a comment below on who you think's going to win any of these games. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at GrownUpFF, where we're putting our takes on any breaking news, fantasy news in the NFL, everything like that. We're putting all sorts of really fun off-season content that we're working on behind the scenes together for you guys, the loyal Guff gang, Guffers. We'll figure out a name for you guys at some point.
You tell us.
Yeah, you tell us. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Be sure to do all those things I just mentioned about subscribing, liking, reviewing, commenting. Be sure to grow up and be sure to get guffed.